What's the most inappropriate thing you've witnessed at a funeral? When my uncle died last summer, our whole family gathered for his funeral in this tiny town where he lived. The service was normal, but afterwards there was a small reception at the community center next door. That's when things got really weird. My uncle's cousin Todd showed up with this beat-up black suitcase. I barely knew Todd, but everyone said he was always trying to make a quick buck off anything. He waited until most people had their plates full of casserole and were sitting down. Then he stood up on a chair and tapped his fork against his glass like he was making a toast. "Hey everyone, I know Peter's gone and we're all sad," he said, pulling out the suitcase. "But Peter owed me a bunch of favors over the years, and I figured I'd help the family out by selling some of his stuff." My Aunt Janet, who was Peter's widow, looked up from her potato salad with this confused expression. She was wearing this black dress that was too big for her because she'd lost so much weight from stress. Todd opened the suitcase and started pulling out my uncle's belongings. His watch collection, some old books, a painting he'd done in art class, even his wedding ring. "We'll start the bidding at $5 for this beautiful timepiece," Todd announced, holding up Peter's favorite watch. It was this silver one he wore every single day. At first, people thought it was some kind of joke. My cousin Brian even laughed and said, "What the hell are you doing, Todd?" But Todd kept going. He pulled out more stuff and started actually calling out prices. A few of the younger cousins thought it was funny and started fake bidding. "$10! My cousin Mike yelled, thinking it was all a gag. "15! Shouted another cousin. But Janet's face went white. She stood up so fast her chair fell backwards. "Todd, what are you doing? Those are Peter's things. I didn't give you permission to—" "Look, Janet, Peter always hated clutter," Todd interrupted, not even looking at her. "He told me once that when he died, he wanted his stuff to go to people who'd actually use it. This is what he would have wanted." The room got really quiet except for the sound of little kids running around in the back. Janet's sister put her arm around her shoulders. "Todd, this isn't appropriate," she said in this calm but angry voice. But Todd kept going. He sold the watch to Mike for $20, even though Mike was just joking around. Then he auctioned off 3 books to my great-aunt for $15. She thought she was helping somehow. Todd was stuffing the money in his pocket like nothing was wrong. Janet started crying. Not the quiet tears from earlier, but these big, ugly sobs. "Please stop," she kept saying. "Please just stop." That's when my dad and Uncle Jim stepped in. Dad grabbed Todd's arm and said, "You need to pack this up right now." But Todd shook him off and said he was almost done, just had a few more items. He pulled out Peter's wedding ring, the same ring Peter had worn for 37 years. "This is 14-karat gold, folks. Let's start at 50. My cousin Amy jumped up and called the security guard from the community center. Todd saw him coming and quickly shoved the remaining stuff back in the suitcase. But he'd already sold about 6 items and had maybe $60 in his pocket. The security guard, this older guy named Ron, walked Todd outside. Through the window, we could see Todd arguing and pointing back at the building. Ron just kept shaking his head and pointing toward the parking lot. After Todd left, the whole room felt different. People were whispering and looking at Janet, who was still crying. My dad tried to get the items back from the people who'd bought them, but Mike had already put the watch in his car, and Great Aunt Rose said she'd already written a check. Janet's sister drove her home early. Later, we found out that some of the stuff Todd sold was actually worth a lot more than what people paid. The watch was an antique worth over $300. Todd never showed up to another family event. Last I heard, even his own mom won't talk to him anymore.